and I came from nothing. My father cut hair for a living. And for me to have the opportunity of doing something for people has been such a privilege. I like to think I've done bits and pieces for myself as well, but that wasn't ever the driver for me. And although I always sort of regarded it as my research as being part of what I'm doing for people with epilepsy. It's always been practical. It's not been basic, not much of it anyway. And it's always geared at doing something positive. How different is that from what I'm doing now? And I'll only be doing it for another month. Hugely different. Just to have had the opportunity to see what is needed and to aim at the goal that IBE has to make a difference to people with epilepsy, whether it's through WHO or whether it's through individual clinicians or just talking to people. It really is what it's all about. It really does make a difference. And if I can even have somebody special take on my role, and there's one special person sitting opposite me here, then I've achieved something. Because, when I started, the organization wasn't going in the direction that it needed to go. And I can say that, and I hope that people would agree. And it took me about a week to figure that out. And then it took a lot longer to figure out what to do about it. I don't think there could be any more different presidents of organizations than Francesca and me. We are completely different. I'm an epileptologist. I trained as a clinical pharmacologist and a general physician. I did emergency medicine until a few years back before I took over IBE. And I'm not a neurologist. In 1982, when I came back to Glasgow, I thought, what am I going to do as a career? I'm doing emergency medicine, but I haven't any particular specialty as such. And I had been working with carbamazepine as a clinical pharmacologist to see what it did to drug metabolism, and particularly in its own metabolism. And of course, it was a well-known anti-seizure drug at that time. So I thought, I'll do some studies. So I started to put some studies together, mainly volunteer stuff and not in patients. And no one had done epilepsy as a specialty. And so all the patients that people had, they referred to me. And I realized that here was a potential that I could do something worthwhile. And so we set up the epilepsy clinic a long time ago, long before your time, Francesca. In 1982, I set up my clinic. And I started to do the trials, both regulatory trials and pharmacological trials. And as I said, people were referring me patients. I was getting patients from accident emergency because no one, as soon as they came in with a seizure, they were just sent home again. And when we set up our service, they were sent to us, and we started looking at newly diagnosed epilepsy over many years. And the work that we published is now highly cited, and one of the papers is the most cited epilepsy paper in New England Journal with Patrick Kwan, who's now, of course, in Melbourne. So it was all sort of chance, really, except that I always regarded myself, and I regard myself as a clinician, as a doctor, as someone who cares about patients. And so I was able to link my research, a research interest, with that, and with the fact that I could make a difference for people with epilepsy. But it's one thing for me to do something in a clinic for a person with epilepsy, and it's a very different thing from them to make a difference in their community, in their lives, and for their family, and for other people's family. And we have to give them the opportunity for making those achievements for themselves and for others.